ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of the life of household disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. We were looking into the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. We will continue from where we had left in the last class. On July 28, 1885, Sri Ramakrishna went to the home of Nanda Bose, a wealthy man of Calcutta, to see his collections of pictures of gods and goddesses. Ramakrishna was very much impressed. He said to Nanda Bose, though you are a householder, still you have kept your mind on God. So, this is a wonderful praise by which Sri Ramakrishna is encouraging all the householders that in spite of all your hard work, so much of responsibility, you are attending the class, you are thinking of God, you are meditating on God, you have taken Mantra Diksha, you are participating in the Karma Yoga. So, Ramakrishna is praising you. And how is he praising you? Through Nanda Bose, he's telling, though you are all householders, still you have kept your mind on God. Is that a small thing? See, such a wonderful praise by the Avatar Purusha himself. He's telling that you keeping mind on God with all your difficulties and responsibilities is something great. Now, further, Ramakrishna praises the man who has renounced the world can pray, will pray to him as a matter of course. So, for us, sannyasins, Ramakrishna is telling there is no greatness if we remember God always. Because we have renounced everything for the sake of God, there is nothing special. But for the householders, in spite of so much of work, hard work, so much of difficulties in life, you people have time to sit and hear about God. You are attending these classes and so many other things, Karma Yoga, then you are serving the poor people in Asia or any other poor areas or whatever might be. So that is really great in spite of all your family responsibilities and also the danger of the pandemic, you are doing all this work. So that is praiseworthy. So we sannyasis doing it, we have to do it. We have dedicated our life, no greatness in that. But for the householders, it's really great. The man who has renounced the world will pray to God as a matter of course. Is there any credit in that? Says Ramakrishna. But blessed indeed is he who, while leading a householder's life, prays to God. He is like a man who finds an object after removing a stone weighing 20 mounds. A mound is approximately 82 pounds. Now, in Nanda Bose house itself, on the same occasion, now Nanda Bose served sweets to Sri Ramakrishna. Something happened here, you can note it. And then he, after serving the sweets, he offered Ramakrishna betel leaf on a tray. Now the betel leaf was already offered to the other guests. They had eaten from it, and now after that, Ramakrishna was offered. But the other guests had already taken some of that from the tray. It is the custom that something can be offered to God only if no one else has partaken of it beforehand. So now master would not accept any. Nanda Basu noticed this and questioned Ramakrishna about it. Now, Ramakrishna is giving a wonderful answer. Ramakrishna replied, "Before I eat anything, I offer that thing to God. It is a notion of mine." Now, you should note that Ramakrishna had completely obliterated his own ego. There is no question of Ramakrishna not taking the betel leaf or the sweets because it was offered to somebody else. But the important thing is, Ramakrishna had the habit of offering anything before taking himself. He would offer it to his Ishtadevata, Divine Mother, who was always present in his personality, in his person, not personality, person. Now he had completely destroyed his ego, perfect self abnegation. And Divine Mother Kali was completely occupying him. He identified with the Divine Mother. So there was no Ramakrishna, it was Divine Mother Kali herself in the person of Ramakrishna. So whenever he used to take something, eat something, he used to offer it to the Divine Mother and then he used to partake of it. Now it has been already served to others. How can he take that and offer to the Divine Mother when it is already served? That's why Sri Ramakrishna refused it. But Nanda Bose, he had studied little Vedanta. See, if you study thoroughly, you'll have the correct knowledge. But half-baked knowledge always creates problem. So he had little knowledge of Vedanta. Now he's questioning Ramakrishna. Nanda Bose was a little proud of his knowledge of Vedanta philosophy. Trying to evaluate Sri Ramakrishna's actions intellectually, he said, "But that betel leaf would have gone to God all the same." He said further, "You are a Paramahamsa, means who has gone beyond all rules and regulations, Paramahamsa. Why do you abide by the injunctions or prohibition of the scriptures?" So they are meant for the ignorant people, but Sri Ramakrishna never reacted or told anything because he's true Paramahamsa, though he's being tested, he's being pricked by those comments sarcastically there. But Nanda Bose is telling, but Ramakrishna smiled at it. They are meant for ignorant people when he told, "You are not an ignorant person, you are Paramahamsa, but you are behaving in an ignorant way." That was the idea. But Sri Ramakrishna smiled and again remarked, "Don't worry, it's a notion of mine. I can have little freedom about it. It is just my notion. Nothing to do with Paramahamsa or spirituality or Vedanta. It's a notion of mine." Now, Nanda Bose concluded from this that Sri Ramakrishna had not attained the highest non dualistic state of realization. He is not a true Paramahamsa. Beyond the pairs of opposites and the law of causation, he has not gone beyond that. Now, Girish Chandra Ghosh came to know of this and he felt very bad. Girish Chandra Ghosh was convinced that Sri Ramakrishna had not revealed his divine nature to Nanda Bose because of the pride of learning, the ahankar of learning was already there. That's why Ramakrishna, because of his ego, did not reveal his true self. Only people who had faith. See, the ego is the main culprit. If you have ego, you cannot get the grace of God. That's Maya. Ego is Maya. Ramakrishna used to give the example. He used to hold a towel in front of him like this, and the devotee is sitting there on the other side. Now Ramakrishna used to tell, "Can you look at me now?" No, sir. Why? Because the towel is spread before you and it is obstructing my view. I cannot see you. Then, giving this example, Ramakrishna used to tell. Similarly, see, though I am very near to you, sitting just in front of you, but this spread towel is obstructing or not allowing you to look at me. Likewise, the Lord is our indweller. He is in our heart. Then why can't we see Him? Because the ego is just like that obstruction. It doesn't allow us to see the God who is so near to us. So that was the example Sri Ramakrishna used to give, the simple examples by which everybody, anybody, even an uneducated, illiterate person could understand. That's why people who have this pride of so many things, ego of so many things, not one, hundreds of varieties of egos will create obstructions to us, varieties. So now this Nanda Basu had that pride of knowledge of Vedanta. So even knowledge of Vedanta, which is meant for liberation, which is meant for removing our ego, has now become the cause of ego. So should we not be very careful? So now, because of that, though Ramakrishna was showering his grace, he couldn't receive it. There is another beautiful example in the gospel itself. Ramakrishna tells, the grace of God, the Lord showers grace on all of us, but that grace, which is in the form of water, it cannot stay on the mound. See, if you put a heap of mud or there is a stone thing like this, boulder. So now if you pour water, will the water get collected on that mound or that heap? Never, because the water flows away. So the water cannot get collected there at all. Instead, remove that mound or that heap and let there be space inside. Instead of the mound, the heap, there will be the space inside the thing. So water, rainwater, it goes and collected in that pit because there is space. Likewise, ego, our pride is like that mound or that heap. It will not allow the Lord's grace to get collected there, though Lord is pouring His grace on us. But on the contrary, if you have the pit of Vinayata, humility, then God's grace will get collected there. Now Nanda Basu, Ramakrishna has gone to his house, very happy about the pictures. But now he failed to get the grace of Ramakrishna because of his pride. So he's telling Ramakrishna that you are not a person who has realized completely, you are not gone beyond the pairs of opposite. Ramakrishna is smiling. But because of his pride, he couldn't receive. People who do not have pride, Ramakrishna would reveal who he was. So you should be very, very careful. What is one of the obstruction for grace of God or to have our faith in God? Ego and pride are the main hurdles. So you have to note all these points, even though it is there, very subtly put inside. You have to bring out that and make it a lesson in our life. Otherwise, just reading it just like a novel or some other books will not give you the effect, fullest effect. So we have to go deeper and connect that to our life. Then only it will be very interesting. Nanda Bose concluded from this that Sri Ramakrishna had not attained the highest non-dualistic state of realization beyond the pairs of opposites and the law of causation. Girish came to know of this incident and he felt very bad. Girish was convinced that Sri Ramakrishna had not revealed his divine nature to Nanda because of Nanda's pride of learning. wanting to test this himself. Now, Girish Chandra Ghosh wanted to test now Ramakrishna. What did he do? To prove that it was because of the pride, the egotism of Nanda Bose that Ramakrishna didn't reveal. So, how did he test it? So it's very, very important. Please concentrate, focus. What did Girish do? How did he test Master? Girish invited Sri Ramakrishna to his house without any comment. He didn't tell anything about all these things. He kept all these ideas in his mind. Girish bought in a tray of bitter leaf, same similar way just like Basu did. The master immediately understood Girish Chandra Ghosh's intent and with a smile on his face took the betel leaf from the tray. Mad with joy, Girish was mad with joy because that was a test. What did he do? Girish Chandra Ghosh had already taken that betel leaf and eaten it. Now he wanted to test whether Ramakrishna would not take it or not. Would he take it or not? Now, there he did not take in the case of Bose. Why? Because of his ego and pride of Basu, Nanda Basu. Ramakrishna didn't want to open up his greatness or his divinity, show it up to him. But now he is ready to give it to Girish. Why? Because of his faith. See, faith can create wonders. So he bought a tray, put the betel leaves in it. He had already taken from that. Now he offered to Ramakrishna. What happened? Girish invited Master to his house without any comment. Girish bought in a tray of betel leaf, took one himself. He ate it, he took one himself, and then after that he offered the tray to Sri Ramakrishna. The master immediately understood Girish's intent and with a smile took the betel leaf from the tray and ate it. Mad with joy, Girish Chandra Ghosh saluted Sri Ramakrishna again and again and disclosed the whole story to everybody who were present there. He who makes the rules, who has made all the rules in this nature outside God. So God is the one who has made all these rules. So now he who makes the rules can also change those rules. So Girish's love had set aside all rules of religious observance. Moreover, the great teachers observe scriptural rules in order to set an example for others. So now, could you understand why the avatar Purushas, they need not undergo the rules and regulations? Even an ordinary realized soul, Brahmagnani, will be going beyond all the rules and regulations, time, space, and causation, beyond the nature. And what about Paramahamsa? What about the Avatara Purusha himself? Now, he is beyond all rules. But why do they follow rules then? Why do the saints follow rules? Because they should set the right example to others who are at the lowest rung of spiritual life. They will look at these great people and they will think, if those people, great people, are performing this, we will also do it in the similar fashion. So they will be setting the great people, if they don't perform all these things, they'll be setting in a bad example. Just like Lord Krishna has told in the Bhagavad Gita, Yad Yat Acharati Shreshtaha Tat Tat Evetaro Janaha Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokas Tadanu Vartate. So, as the elders do, as the seniors do, as the great people they do, likewise, all the other people, the followers, they will take that as an example and perform that. That's why the great people should be very, very careful. They should set an example always. Yes, they need not follow any rules and regulations. But to set a right example, they have to follow the rules of the scriptures. He who makes rules can also change rules. Girish Chandra Ghosh Lal had set aside all rules of religious observances. Moreover, the great teachers observe scriptural rules in order to set an example for others. So now you understand why Ramakrishna is to follow every rules and regulations very particularly, because the other people who are watching him will follow Ramakrishna. Oh, Ramakrishna has done this, we will do it. So it's a very, very great, difficult task for the avatar Purushas. They have to set in the ideals, they have to set in so many high standards. It is not necessary for them. But why? Because they have to set an example, Loka Kalyana, to others for the welfare of the world. So now you understood why they follow rules and regulations and the words of the scriptures, because the great teachers observe scriptural rules in order to set an example for others and not for their own benefit. They don't have anything to attain in this world. Moreover, since they are the avatar Purushas, they are the Brahmagnanis, they can get anything at will. There's nothing which is impossible for them. Why are they taking all these hardship? Because great teachers observe scriptural rules in order to set an example for others and not for their own benefit at all. There is no idea or no case of benefit ahituka, without any cause, without any desire, they behave. Ahituka kripa sindhu, ahituka priti, ahituka karya. Hetu means some reason. There is no reason at all. They do it out of love. So that is not for their benefit. Thus, Girish Chandra Ghosh came to have firm faith. So all these things now is increasing the faith of Girish. So all these incidences made Girish to have firm faith in the redeeming power of Sri Ramakrishna. Years later, Girish Chandra Ghosh would say, had I known, see, it's a wonderful statement often quoted, it's very humorous also. Just watch it, you will enjoy it. Girish Chandra Ghosh is commenting, had I known that there was such a huge pit in which to throw one's sins, then Sharada Devi Ramakrishna. Then I would have committed many more sins and then come to Ramakrishna. That was his comment. So it's so firm faith in the redeeming power of Sri Ramakrishna that without any reasons, without any rhyme, without any cause, he just takes the sins and help the masses, the poor people, the downtrodden, the weak. So without any reward or any real cause. That's why I say God is not partial at all. If there is any rules and regulations for giving his karuna, then that would have not become karuna at all, mercy or kindness at all, because God is also bound to these rules and regulations. The God is not at all bound. He can show his grace anytime, anywhere, anyhow to anybody. That is the speciality. Now, once it so happened, this is a special case now, the reverse case. Earlier it was in the case of Sri Ramakrishna. Now something happened in the case of Girish Chandra Ghosh. And what is that? Note it, it's very, very important. Once Sri Ramakrishna asked Girish to take a bath in the Ganga. But Girish Chandra Ghosh was reluctant to do so. Why? Because why do they take bath in Ganga? To purify themselves, to remove their sins. Because he had so much faith in Sri Ramakrishna, his Guru, his redeeming power, that he is going to take away all his sins and free him, liberate him. Then why do I need Ganga to purify me? Why should I go and take dip or take bath in Ganga? If I go and take dip in Ganga, that means I want to remove sins, that means you don't have faith in your Guru Ramakrishna. That's why you are going there. So Ramakrishna asked Girish to take bath in the Ganga. But Girish was reluctant to do so. I gave you the reason. It is common belief that if a person takes bath in Ganga, he becomes pure, his sins will be taken away. Girish Chandra Ghosh considered this mere superstition. Why? Because Ramakrishna's Guru is taking away everything. Why do you need any other thing? And he didn't believe in that also. He thought it was mere superstition. Finally, Sri Ramakrishna persuaded, forced Girish Chandra Ghosh to go and take bath in Ganga. Why? Saying, if you, being a great devotee, do not abide by these religious customs, who else will follow them? So Girish obeyed. Now there were so many followers of Girish Chandra Ghosh. People admired him for his intellect. Now if Girish goes and takes bath in Ganga, they will be all watching. Then they will also follow. Oh, our ideal, our hero is now taking bath in Ganga. We should also do it. So in that way, those people also will be benefited. So Ramakrishna persuaded Girish Chandra Ghosh, if you, being a great devotee, do not abide by these scriptural religious customs and rules, who else will follow them? So Girish obeyed. This removed his doubt. Later, he would bathe in the Ganga on auspicious occasions. One day, suddenly the thought came to his mind that if Ramakrishna has taken away all the sins from me, he has taken not only all the sins but also the responsibility of me. Why should Ramakrishna have? Why should Ramakrishna has asked me to take bath in Ganga to be purified? Because Ramakrishna has already purified me, taken away the sins from me. Why should I go and take bath, or why should Ramakrishna ask me to? Now he got an answer, he got the secret. Why did Master ask me to do it? However, his analytical mind soon found an answer. When sinners take bath in Ganga, the goddess Ganga absorbs their sins and make them pure. On the other hand, you should know that it is believed that when the holy people bathe in Ganga, she gains virtue by offering peace and delight to them. He concluded that through Sri Ramakrishna's grace, see what a wonderful conclusion. Now Girish Chandra Ghosh concluded that by Ramakrishna's grace, he had become so pure and sinless that by Girish Chandra Ghosh bathing, the redeeming power of Ganga would increase 100-fold. What a wonderful thought conclusion, what a positive way of thinking, isn't it? How can you get this positive attitude? Because Ramakrishna had really given him that wonderful grace in spite of all his sins, in spite of all his drawbacks. Girish Chandra Ghosh had got so much from Sri Ramakrishna. Now his positivity has increased thousandfold. He is now thinking, I am no more a sinner. Ramakrishna has taken away. So now, why did Sri Ramakrishna ask me to take bath? Because now I've become purified, I've become a saint. Now, if I take bath in Ganga, then I can help Mother Ganga to absorb some of the sins or give his virtue, his good punya to the Ganga. So that was his thought. See the highest thought of positivity, isn't it? So how did he get it? The redeeming power of Ramakrishna. Faith in Ramakrishna has done this wonderful. Earlier he was so doubtful, everything he would doubt. Now he is the epitome of positivity, epitome of optimism. What a wonderful change. Now you can see it. Where there is love, see, whenever there is love, there will be faith. See, because the child has love towards the mother, whatever the mother tells, the child will believe. It has faith in mother. Likewise, wherever there is love, prema, bhakti, then there is faith. Girish Chandra Ghosh's passionate love for Sri Ramakrishna, Girish Chandra Ghosh's passionate love for Sri Ramakrishna endowed him with what the Master himself described as 125% faith. Ramakrishna himself would tell about Girish that Girish has 125% faith. Generally, it is 100%, not above that. But here, to stress that it is so much, Ramakrishna used to tell Girish has got 125% faith. How? Because by the unconditional love, Sri Ramakrishna had captured Girish. And now his love for Sri Ramakrishna increased. And so faith also increased. So, with our love towards anybody, whether God or human beings, with our devotion to that person, our faith increases. Where there is love, there is faith. Girish Chandra Ghosh's passionate love for Sri Ramakrishna. So that's very important. We have to develop that passionate love for our Ishtadevata. Should not be ordinary. Our bhakti and devotion should not be like Ramakrishna's example is water soaked poha or flattened rice. It becomes too soft, useful for nothing. So that is our way. Our ordinary devotion is of no use. So what kind of devotion should we have? Passionate love for God. So Girish Chandra Ghosh now passionate love for Sri Ramakrishna endowed him with what Sri Ramakrishna himself described as 125% faith. Now Girish Chandra Ghosh loved to talk about Sri Ramakrishna to his friends, to his relatives, to everybody. See, other people, the good people, would not be so passionate to do that. Why? They have got the benefit, they will keep quiet. But the people who were ruffians, the people who were sinners, if you give a twist to their life, transform them, then in whatever way the intensity they were going towards the bad, with the same intensity or even more intensity, they will start doing good to everything. You could see that in Girish. Spreading, he's telling everybody that all should get that joy, not in an ordinary way. So Girish Chandra Ghosh loved to talk about Sri Ramakrishna to his friends, to his kith and kin and everybody. He made all them devotees, all of them devotees. And he used to bring them to Sri Ramakrishna to be blessed. Knowing this, the Sri Ramakrishna one day prayed aloud to the Divine Mother. Mother, I cannot talk so much. Give a little power to Kedarnath, Girish Chandra Ghosh and Vijay Krishna Goswami so that people may go to them first, learn a little, and at last come here to me to have their spiritual awakening in few words or so. Now, if people who have less faith, less devotion, who are yet in the kindergarten of spiritual life, they start coming to Ramakrishna, it would be very, very difficult for Sri Ramakrishna to handle them. And so much of effort has to be put in from the beginning, from the zero. So Ramakrishna is praying to Divine Mother. Mother, give Girish Chandra Ghosh and some other devotees some power. Let all the people come, get attracted to them through their spiritual power. Let them teach them a little. After that, if they come, with one word or two, I can awaken their spiritual consciousness. That was the prayer of Sri Ramakrishna, fervent prayer for Ramakrishna towards the mother. In the spring of 1885, the cancer that was to prove fatal began to develop in Sri Ramakrishna's throat. In September, the devotees moved Sri Ramakrishna from Dakshineshwar to Calcutta. There, he was closer to the doctor and could be better taken care of by the devotees who served him, supported Ramakrishna, and came to see him during the last months of his life. November 6th of that year was the day of the worship of the Divine Mother Kali. It was Kali Puja, November 6th. Sri Ramakrishna said to one of his disciples, "It is good to make some arrangements for the worship. Please speak to the devotees about it." The devotees made arrangements accordingly. To the evening, in the evening, nearly 30 people had assembled in Sri Ramakrishna's room. Girish Chandra Ghosh describes that event. Sri Ramakrishna sat down to perform the worship. He was surrounded by flowers, various fruits, and all the various articles of worship. Suddenly, Ramakrishna turned towards me, that is Girish, and said, "It is the Divine Mother's Day. One should sit and meditate like this." I do not know what took hold of me at that point. I just rushed forward and chanting, "Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Sri Ramakrishna, victory to Sri Ramakrishna," offered those flowers which was meant for Kali's worship at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. The others in the room, they also got inspired and they also came and worshipped Sri Ramakrishna. Instead of Mother Kali, they started worshipping Sri Ramakrishna there who was in Samadhi. The others in the room also did the same. Sri Ramakrishna immediately went into Samadhi with hands assuming. Now, all the time Sri Ramakrishna's posture in the Samadhi was something different. But this time, what was the posture of his hands? He literally became in that Samadhi Divine Mother Kali, just like Mother Kali's hands raised with one Abhaya and another hand the Varada, boon giver, and the giver of Abhaya, fearlessness. So now Sri Ramakrishna immediately went into Samadhi with his hands assuming gestures symbolizing fearlessness, Abhaya, Nirbhaya, and bestowal of boons, Varada. Just like Divine Mother Kali will be holding her hands, or like this, Abhaya and Varada, Ramakrishna also assumed that posture, indicating that he himself manifested Divine Mother Kali. That was the incidents of the Kali Puja. As Sri Ramakrishna's health was steadily deteriorating, doctor advised him to move outside of the city, where in the outskirts the air would be better, no pollution. Consequently, a beautiful garden house was found in Kashipur, and the move was made on December 11, 1885, and arrangement was made whereby the householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna would contribute money for his treatment, his food, and for the rent. The young unmarried disciples who would become the sannyasin disciples in future, they would form the nucleus of the future monastic order, would then manage all the household work, everything, service, serving Ramakrishna, cleaning the room, all the other thing, purchases would be done by these would be monastic members, and giving the money, bringing the things would be by the householders. The young unmarried disciples, the nucleus of the future monastic order, would then manage the household, including the nursing and shopping. After a while, some of the householders' disciples noticed that the expenditures were gradually increasing. They accused the young disciples, like Narendra and other people, of carelessness and asked that account book be strictly maintained. The young disciples, however, were offended by this attitude of the householders and decided not to accept any more money from those householders. When the situation became tense and critical, Girish Chandra Ghosh came forward with a solution. He simply set fire to the account book in front of everyone. Then he told the householder's disciple to contribute each according to his capacity, and the rest, Girish Chandra Ghosh told, came forward. He would make up the deficit. The rest of the money I will give. I am ready to even sell my house, my property, everything, theatre. But the Gurudevas, my Ishtadeva or Guru's service should be done properly without any such glitches. So Girish Chandra Ghosh, in a wonderful way, he simply set fire to the account book in front of everyone. Then he told all those older disciples to contribute each according to his capacity, and he would make up the deficit. To the monastic disciples, he said, "Don't worry, I shall sell my house. If necessary, I'm going to sell everything of mine and spend every bit of money for Sri Ramakrishna." Now, can you understand what he has got from Sri Ramakrishna and what is the faith of Girish Chandra Ghosh towards Ramakrishna, his Guru? So now you can really understand what faith is. He's ready to do anything, sell off his property. So he simply set fire to the account book so that it would hurt the other monastic disciples, that the young disciples, and that if heard by Ramakrishna, it would hurt him too. That's why he simply set fire to the account books in front of everyone. Then he told the householders, disciples, you can contribute, whatever you can. Don't worry, don't make such comments. The rest, I will fill up the deficit. To the monastic disciples, he went and said, don't worry, I shall sell my house if necessary and spend every bit of money for Sri Ramakrishna. I can sell all my property, my house, my property, my theatre, everything, and serve Sri Ramakrishna. Nothing else is greater than me. This opportunity to serve my Guru is a wonderful thing. I am ready to sacrifice anything. That was the attitude of Girish Chandra Ghosh. On January 1st, 1886, Sri Ramakrishna felt strong enough to take a walk in the garden. It was a holiday, and many devotees had come from Calcutta to visit Sri Ramakrishna that afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna began walking slowly through the garden, and the devotees followed him. Suddenly, Sri Ramakrishna said to Girish, well, Girish, what have you found in me that you proclaim me before all as an incarnation? What is there in me? When Ramakrishna asked him, falling to his knees, Girish Chandra Ghosh, before the master and saluting him with folded hands, Girish Chandra Ghosh responded with great emotion. He knelt down, clasped his hands, shedding tears. Then he started talking. What did he tell when Ramakrishna told, why are you talking about me as the avatar and all those things? Then immediately Girish Chandra Ghosh, falling to his knees before Sri Ramakrishna, saluting him with folded hands, he responded with great emotion. am I to speak of him? Even he's telling, who are you, Ramakrishna? Who am I to speak of him? Even the sages Vyasa and Valmiki in Ramayana and Mahabharata and all other scriptures, both Vyasa and Valmiki could find no words to measure his glory. If such is the case, what can I do, an ordinary Pamara, ordinary person? How can I describe the greatness of you who are even greater than all those people? So, hearing Sri Ramakrishna was deeply moved. He blessed Girish Chandra Ghosh and the assembled devotees, saying, what more need I tell you? I bless you, be all be illumined. What a wonderful blessing by the most truthful person, Ramakrishna Avatar Purusha. He's telling, what more need I tell you? I bless you all, be illumined. Toma, Tomadet Chaitanya Hok, be illumined, get realization. Then Sri Ramakrishna went into Samadhi and began to bless the devotees, touching them one by one. With each touch, Sri Ramakrishna gave spiritual awakening to all the people there. One day, not long after this, Gopal Ghosh, who later became known as Swami Advaitananda, expressed to Sri Ramakrishna his desire to distribute ochre cloth, the cloth which the sannyasins wear, the color ochre color, orange color. He wanted to give ochre cloth because it is very punyakara. It gives you a lot of benefit or virtues, punya. So he had bought some Garuva colored cloths, ochre cloth, and also Rudrakshamala, rosaries to the monks. So he wanted that Sri Ramakrishna should distribute them amongst the monks. Now Sri Ramakrishna pointed to all his young disciples and said, why not give them to these boys? They are full of the spirit of renunciation. You won't find better monks anywhere. Go and search, you cannot find better monks than these children, these young youths who have the spirit of renunciation in them. They are full of spirit of renunciation. You won't find better monks anywhere. Gopal had 12 pieces of cloth and 12 rosaries, which Sri Ramakrishna handed over, which Gopal handed over to Sri Ramakrishna. Then Sri Ramakrishna himself distributed all of that cloths among the 11 of his young disciples who were there. Thus, Ramakrishna laid the foundation of the future Ramakrishna order. Was laid by Master. One cloth and one rosary were left because there were 11, 12 was bought, there were 11 boys, so one is left, one cloth and one rosary were left. And Sri Ramakrishna asked to be kept for Girish Chandra Ghosh. For Girish Chandra Ghosh was second to none in the spirit of renunciation. Now, could you see how to the heights of spiritual renunciation Girish Chandra Ghosh has risen up to? Ramakrishna himself kept that rosary and ochre cloth to be given to Girish Chandra Ghosh. Why? Ramakrishna knew that his renunciation has increased. He is a fit person like these sannyasins. See, from where to where? Where was the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh as a sinner, debauch, and so many other drunkard, what not? And now, because of his faith and grace of his Guru, what is the transformation which has happened in the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh? So, faith can work wonders. Let us have that wonderful faith in God. Then we too will be blessed. We too can get all the grace of the Lord and the Guru. So, we will try to conclude now. There is some more left of the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. We will try to complete it either in the next class or we may take two more classes. There's sufficient thing to know and study about the life of Girish Chandra Ghosh. So today we will stop our conversation here. Let us, because so many things have come up. If you go on telling you more, you'll get confused or you will not have the patience to follow all of them, to digest. So we have got so many great things now already. So let us cogitate on them, think on them, meditate on them. Let all that ideas flows in every blood vein, in our nerves, in our brain. We shall be filled with that ideas, that wonderful love, passionate love for his Guru, that faith and all those things we shall also gain. With that intense faith, we can also transform our spiritual life. We can make quick spiritual progress, more quicker than Girish Chandra Ghosh if we have more faith. Let us have more faith. Let us have passionate love for God. Let us have that faith in the words of the Guru, do the sadhana properly and realize God. Thank you. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Priyatam Pundari Kakshah Sarvayagneswaro Harihi Tasmin Tushte Jagat Tushtam Prenite Prenitam Jagat Harihi Om Tatsat Sri Rama Krishnarpanamastu. Om Namo Narayana.